Hi folks, we hope by now you may have seen the small piece in today's Sunday Times entitled "Plaintiff Fails to Arrest Judge", and we believe it's appropriate to clarify a couple of points regarding this short piece. Firstly, we're glad to see that the Sunday Times and the reporter Justine McCarthy has been brave enough to pick up on a topic which most media outlets have been very slow to pick up on. So first of all, thank you to the Sunday Times. Secondly, the heading is "The Plaintiff Fails to Arrest Judge". We'd like to clarify that although we had notified President Nicholas Kearns, the President of the High Court, that he was possibly going to be subject to a citizen's arrest, or at least that we would be inviting him to surrender himself into our custody on the basis of many instances of what appear to be very serious and improper conduct, which I'll get to in a moment. The reason that we did not move ahead was because when the President came out into the hearing, he appeared to be indicating to me that there was no need for me to speak and that a decision had been made and it was just a formality, and we were expecting that he was going to come to a conclusion that would have been fair in these very unusual circumstances. Unfortunately, the decision and the ruling that he made is not wholly satisfactory, and I think it fails in many ways to address some very serious issues ongoing. He did rise and leave the court while I was still speaking, which according to the rules is not correct either, because we do have a right to speak in the courts, especially when a person is the plaintiff. Second main point I'd like to point out is this: we are not in the business of trying to embarrass our judges, confront the courts, or in any way undermine or subvert our justice system, as long as it is acting according to the law and the Constitution. But we've got to understand something here, folks. If our judges, and I'm saying this now, if our judges are not doing their jobs correctly, something has to be done about it, because they are right at the top of the tree of the justice system. I mean, it's common sense. If we can't rely on our judges to do the right thing, who do we turn to? I've said before, with respect to the best of our judges, and I mean that absolutely and most sincerely, and thankfully I could list a few who would be in that category. Unfortunately, we can also list a great many more who would not be in that category, because they are routinely working against their own oath of office, against the law and against the Constitution, as well as superior court rules. Most of us, of course, especially as lay litigants, don't know when we're being given the runaround. We don't know for sure when the rules are being broken. We get confused and caught up in all the big fancy Latin terms and all the other ceremonial protocols, which are obviously designed to overawe us and keep us in our place. And again, it's all well and good when the judges are doing their jobs correctly. But if, after years and years of trying to get justice, we come up against a judge who decides for one reason or another that he's just not going to bother to apply the law or the Constitution or the rules, something that we're absolutely depending upon to get justice, then obviously something has to be done about it. I am just an ordinary citizen. The sad fact of the matter is, after years and years of trying to find justice through the system, I can honestly say, and very sadly and regrettably, I have to say, I no longer trust the institutions of the state, and in particular, An Garda Síochána, the legal profession in general, and our court system. So what do? We have two choices. We either throw up our hands, walk away disgusted, and just say, sure, what can we do about it? The alternative is to stand up and confront wrongdoers, no matter what position of authority or power that they hold in the state. We confront them and we read up on the legislation so that we can challenge them with their own laws and their own rules, and refuse absolutely to go along with it. What I am saying to the judges of Ireland, and I hope the rest of you will join with me in saying this, it's simply this: If you engage in activity which is to any extent against the law or against the Constitution, I will not go along with that, because to do so would make me complicit in the crimes being committed. You will not make me into a criminal. So that's the position I hold, and that's the position that I have to hold. In fact, it is the only lawful and constitutional position you can hold when you're faced with people who are committing crimes in the corridors of power. It's really very simple in one sense, but it's creating a very awkward conundrum for authority figures who have been getting away with abuses of power and position for years upon years upon years. Now, I'd like to remind you briefly that this current situation that I'm involved in, and again, please understand, I'm only a representative of the Integrity Ireland Association. There are many, many other cases similar to mine, some far worse, some very different. But just so that the people watching this understand what's going on here, this particular issue at the moment that's been reported in the Irish Times is to do with the fact that a person from another jurisdiction who has a criminal record going back many years was able to walk into the High Court, despite all the rules and regulations against this sort of thing. He was able to walk in without even showing his ID, and he was able to act in approaching now 18 different court hearings in the High Court, the Circuit Court, and even the Appeals Court, to all intents and purposes as if he were a trained barrister. Now, it would be one thing if he was doing this because it was some sort of an oversight, somebody made a mistake. But that's just not credible, and it's not believable. Not when I have written in something in the range of a dozen different formal complaints, not only into the guards for perjury, fraud, deception, misrepresentation, but also into the various courts' offices, to registrars, to judges, and even to the Chief Justice herself. In fact, that was probably the catalyst that eventually got something done about this. But as a lay litigant, as a person who's entitled to the protection of the courts and the justice system, it should not be for me to be writing in letters to judges directing them that they're about to be asked to surrender themselves into our custody because the situation has gotten so out of control. It is not credible to believe that the President of our Circuit Court, the President of our High Court, and the President of our Appeal Courts have each not been aware, when this individual came before them, that he was absolutely making an utter and complete mockery of our courts. The question we need to ask is, why did they allow this to happen? Not once, not twice, but 18 times in a row. Something is very seriously wrong here, folks. And I hope you all understand this is why I have to take this position. As I said earlier, either we confront them or we kowtow, back off, and allow them to continue abusing us, abusing our Constitution, abusing our resources at will ad infinitum. Don't forget, folks, we are paying their wages. We are paying them to protect us, the people, and to enforce the law and the Constitution. I rather feel that we are being made fools of. Now finally, next Friday, February the 27th, in matters directly related to what's going on here today, I have to go back in front of Justice Mary Finlay Geoghegan. We've already been in front of her once already. I was invited to submit a written statement, which I agreed to do, although I had made it very clear to Justice Geoghegan that I didn't want to participate even in the last hearing because of this string of illegalities that have been ongoing for over a year. I have now submitted that statement. It is some 16 pages long. It is my intention to publish it so that everybody understands what exactly is going on. I ask again for the support of our dedicated members to please come along and support me on Friday, because we will be insisting respectfully and constitutionally that Justice Geoghegan brings this travesty, this farcical comedy of errors, to a halt, and does so in a fair, just and appropriate manner. Thank you for listening.
you.